Hello and welcome to Sticky from the Inside, the employee engagement podcast that looks at how to build stickier, competition-smashing, consistently successful organisations from the inside out. I'm your host, Andy Gorham, and I'm on a mission to help more businesses turn the lights on behind the eyes of their employees, light the fires within them, and create tons more success for everyone. This podcast is for all those who believe that's something worth going after and would like a little help and guidance in achieving that. Each episode, we dive into the topics that can help create what I call stickier businesses. The sort of businesses where people thrive and love to work, and where more customers stay with you and recommend you to others because they love what you do and why you do it. So, if you want to take the tricky out of being sticky, listen on. Okay then, today we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for so many of us, the topic of busyness. It's everywhere. We wear it like a badge of honour, boasting about how packed our schedules are, how little sleep we're getting, and how much we're juggling. But what if I told you that busyness is more than just a working habit? What if it's an addiction? And one that comes with a hefty personal price tag, and a price tag for an organisation too. And our guest today knows all about that price tag. Peggy Sullivan is the incredible author of the new book, Beyond Busyness, How to Achieve More by Doing Less. And she's here to share how we can break free from this cycle of constant doing. Peggy will show us how busyness isn't just about being busy. It's actually robbing us of time. And here's the kicker, gang. The kind of time poverty we're talking about doesn't just rob us of the ability to do more stuff in our day. It stops us from doing the really good things in life, the things that bring us joy, meaning, and connection, and can also seriously damage our health. Peggy knows firsthand what it feels like to be stuck in the busyness trap. She's lived it. But she didn't just escape. She turned her experience into, frankly, a beautifully powerful framework to help others reclaim their time and energy. And today, I'm going to ask Peggy to share her fabulous 3-step busy busting process. And trust me, they're not just tips. These are intentionally simple, life-changing strategies to help you eliminate low-value activities, infuse your days with more joy, and really realign your life with what truly matters. So, if you've ever felt like you're on that hamster wheel, endlessly running and chasing, but never feeling like you're getting anywhere closer to the goal, then I think this episode is for you. It's time to trade in the feeling of busyness for balance, and to take back your time, your energy, and your life. Peggy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here. And, for me, it's all about how do we ignite ultimate performance without wanting to slit our wrists, without feeling so burnt out, so tired, so exhausted. How do we light our company up so everybody is working at full capacity? That's my passion.
I love that. We are in for one hell of a ride today, I think, with you, Peggy. It's the first podcast I can honestly say that within the first couple of minutes, we've used the term slitting our wrists. I love that. We're on. This is going to be good. Before we get all excited and start thinking about all the wonderful topics surrounded by busyness, let's just take a breath, ease our way in. Peggy, do me a favor, will you? You just give us a little bit more about your background and your journey to this point, and then maybe just give us a little inkling as to where the whole idea for this book came from.
Yeah, I most certainly will. My name is Peggy, and I am a busyness addict in recovery. And throughout all of my life, there's been too much to do and too little time to do it. And it's come with a really serious price tag. I was that girl that had the amazing job. I climbed the corporate ladder. I made a lot of money for a lot of companies, but I didn't know how to do it in a way that was truly efficient and effective and didn't burn me out, didn't wring me out. And I think that's the intersection where every organization is at right now is how to do that. So you asked what got me to today. I worked for the Fortune 500 companies, the Blue Cross Blue Shields, the United Healthcares, the Materions. I traveled the world, but I decided to kind of give it all up to figure out what my legacy was going to be. And I started doing market research, and I asked thousands and thousands and thousands of people, what's your biggest challenge? And people said again and again, I do not have time for what's important. And what's important to one company is different than what's important to another individual. So for me, that's my legacy. That's what I set out to do. And the last 10 years of my work, my research, my speaking, my consulting, it's all about how to unlock ultimate performance without wanting to slit your wrists. And I did everything the hard way. And I know for me, I had wake up calls, wake up calls, wake up calls. And I think the one wake up call that kind of hit me the hardest was, I came home from work. I was a single mom, and I opened the door, and I was ravenous, and I was into my pantry, and I had to find something to eat. And so I grabbed a handful of pistachio nuts, the only single thing I could find. And I chopped them down, and then I felt this pulling on my leg, and I looked down, and it's my cat Dazzle, and he's hungry, so I throw some kibbles into his dish and fall asleep on the couch. And next thing I wake up, and there's this gagging noise. It's just so incredibly loud. And I look up, and it's my cat Dazzle throwing up pistachio nuts. And I realized that I was in such a burnt out, mindless haze. I had just eaten cat food for dinner. And it was one of the many things that I did unintentionally, because when we're on that hamster wheel, life isn't about choice. It's not about intention. It's about checking the lists and getting it done. So for me, when that happened, I knew I needed to do things differently. And I was really surprised on what the solution ended up being. And it came through a lot of trial and tribulation and testing and refining and throwing it out to a group or individual and just refining it. But I'm really proud to say I have no doubt anyone who uses my 3-step busy busting process will get minimally 5 hours back in their work week and be happier and healthier.
Well, we love a bit of practical resourcing on this show for sure. There's just a couple of things I would like to just pick up before we start going through this journey together. Firstly, I think the signal of eating cat food, that's bound to be a big signal, right? That something's not quite right in the world. And I'm sure we'll dig into that. The other thing I just want to have a quick question or a quick pause about, because it's quite relevant to some conversations I had with some clients recently. I love it when people think about the legacy they want to leave behind. And just recently having some discussions with people, even asking them the question to think about what legacy do you want to leave behind? That's proven to be quite a challenging topic for some people to get their heads around, to even begin to think about, what do you mean? Like, I've never thought about what legacy I'm leaving. That process for you, Peggy, of even recognizing that, hey, I want to leave a legacy, and then going through a process to understand what that legacy might look like. How did that feel for you? Did you just get a sudden bit of inspiration one day and said, hey, what is going on? What legacy am I leaving? Or was it something that evolved over time for you?
Love helping people. When I can help people and make their world better or brighter, that is something that just floats my boat. So I thought if I could figure out a challenge that just about everybody in the world faces and figure out how to solution for it, that would be the best legacy I could give. And it was crazy because I started with market research, and I'm a research geek. Market research is the foundation for everything I do. And the market research kind of led to this topic of I just don't have enough time for what I really need to be doing. So I'm not igniting performance. I'm not igniting growth. I'm not igniting relationships, connection, all of that stuff people felt was missing from their lives. And so, I wanted to take a really complicated pain point and give people a easy, actionable solution on how they can step into their personal power and get to the end of the day saying, darn, I had a damn good day today.
I mean, that is a fantastic legacy. Hence asking the question, right? And it fits so well with this podcast about leaving behind some practical, actionable things that people can do to improve their working life. And this will have knock-ons in personal life, no question. No question about that. In all of the research that I've done into you, and that's not meant to sound like the complete stalker it might come across, but you are an incredibly honest and direct individual. Some of the stories that I've heard you tell about, they're incredibly they share a lot. And I mentioned in the introduction, which is based off a lot of what you've talked about, this topic that busyness is really an addiction. And I wonder if you would help my listeners understand why and how you see it like that. How has that come about? What's your own lived experience of that, and how do you like to try and help others as a result of that?
An addiction is described by the American or the International Psychiatric Association as being something that keeps you from doing what you should be doing, what you need to be doing, what's important. And so for busyness addicts, we love checking the boxes. I know some people who will empty the garbage. So at the end of the day, they can check something off their list and feel a sense of accomplishment. But emptying the garbage isn't important. So it's really important that we have this filter on matching what is critical, what is important, what's going to make a difference. And that's how we spend our precious time. We don't get more than, couple of hours every single day, the same 24 hours. So we live in a hustle society, and when you ask people, how you doing? How you doing? They'll say, I'm so busy. Aren't I great? And they'll pound their chest and feel really good about it. Or look at what I accomplished. But busyness rarely equals success. And so it's about looking at what is success. And those are the few intentional things that you spend your precious resources on. And it's hard because busyness is habitual. I used to get up every morning and look at my email. And then I'd be stuck in the email rabbit hole. And before I knew it, I wasn't doing, things that were really important. I wasn't working towards my goals, my objectives. I wasn't spending time with my cat that for 3 minutes gives me so much joy brushing him and hearing him purr, purr, purr. I mean, it just wasn't the best way for me to start my day, but yet for 30 years, that's what I did because I didn't know any different. So it's really about understanding your low value activities and knowing that they can be addictive. So taking the discipline and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put a Post-it note on my computer that says no email today till 10:30, period, end of discussion. You're going to work on what's most important. And if people need you, they know how to contact you. And it's just this change in mindset. And the funny thing about a habit, I always tell people to sit down and cross a leg. They always use the same leg. And then I tell them, use the other leg. And they'll be like, well, that feels uncomfortable. And I'll be like, well, do it. Do it 3, 4, 5, 10 times. It gets more comfortable, doesn't it? And it's really, that's all it's all about is changing a habit, changing, what you're addicted to. So busyness is an addiction, and 98% of the world is addicted to getting stuff done. It makes them feel good. They love the endorphin high, so they do it again and again. crossed it off my list. Cool beans. I'm going to do it again.
I guess, and look, and I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist or anything like that, or even health practitioner. I'm just an enthusiast for all this sorts of stuff. But I guess part of dealing with an addictive behavior is very much about facing into that, right? Facing into that addiction, recognizing the signs, and then I guess having the courage to try and do something about it. What were the signs really, honestly, for you, Peggy? When did you realize that this was becoming almost an unhealthy obsession with getting stuff done as opposed to trying to be productive? Because there's a fine line, I guess, in some people's heads.
Yeah. He had so many wake up calls, and I kept on going back to my busyness. I mean, I had a stress related heart attack before I was 40. I had the love of my life, my husband, the father of my child, walk out on me because I wasn't spending time with him. I mean, I had all of those big deal moments, but I didn't do anything about it because I didn't understand the power of a micro step. I didn't understand that these small little things, these baby steps that I would take would make a difference. And I'd get a little bit more time back in my day and I'd feel better. So then the next day would get more productive and I'd be healthier and happier and more energetic. And so for me, yes, I had lots of wake up calls, but it was understanding what micro steps, what small little actions I could take that would really change my paradigm.
Can you remember the first micro step that you had to take on that journey?
I would absolutely say that it was about time blocking
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
blocking out time for me to work out. When I work out, I get very, very creative. I solve problems, and I wasn't working out. And so I was loggy and I wasn't happy and healthy. And so as soon as I started to time block for workouts, that really helped. And that email thing with the post-it notes, it was really, really important. I mean, I look at that post-it note and I'd be like, nope, not gonna do it, and that little post-it note stayed on my computer for probably about 6 weeks until I finally got into the habit of not email first, and meetings, I'd say, is another one for people. We think we're productive if we go from meeting to meeting to meeting. And yet 85% of people say one-third of their meetings are not productive. They get nothing out of them. So why do we keep on going to meetings? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I think what I really like about that and is I think sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you feel like a bit of a fraud when you recommend solutions to people that aren't majorly complicated. They expect a big solution to be tough and big and complex. And I think this is the key, especially with habit stuff. Tiny little changes, really focusing on that tiny little thing rather than trying to achieve something crazy all at once, and building the confidence and I guess the muscle memory to kind of do that, do it again, stake it in the ground and move on. I absolutely love that. It should give anybody listening the real kind of like fortitude that tiny things are okay, and they are the things that all add up to make big changes. I love the fact that you talk about this addiction thing, but then we've still got this trap of busyness that you talk into that people unintentionally fall into. You gave a bit of a signal as to perhaps where that all stems from. But if you try and unpack that problem for us of falling into the busyness trap, what is it, do you think, about the current climate or culture in work that makes this trap so prevalent and that so many people fall into?
I think we feel as though when we're over the top busy, we're more productive. And actually, if you look at the science of productivity, when we're nonstop busy, we're actually less productive. We
Mm,
get less done. The concept of multitasking. If I do three things at once, I'll get three things done. But the reality is, you're going to make 3.5 times as many mistakes, and it's going to take you multiple times, as long. So I think, the reality is really understanding what's important. And I know for me, every day I realign my priorities because sometimes what I thought was going to be important isn't that important. And so I always like to make sure I'm making progress on what's important to me. My values, connecting with people, getting a job done, helping people, move the bar. Those are the things that are really important to me. And we'll talk later about it. But step number 3, values vibing. There's a simple report card that I do that reminds me every day to do something that matters to me. And it's just a 60-second exercise I do at the end of the day. And next day, I didn't miss out on something that was really important to me.
I am very keen to get into that busy busting process because I think the three headers there are so beautifully clean and simple, and yet so rich in content. But before we do get into that, I do want to have a look at this price tag. And you talk about the price tag of busyness quite a bit. And I again, from what I have gleaned, there are seen and there are unseen costs or the price tag associated with this busyness trap. In your experience, what does that look like? I mean, what was the personal toll for you? And I know you help thousands of people kind of sort this stuff out. Are there any kind of common themes that really play out in and how this stuff manifests and the costs on, I don't know, life and health and all those good things?
Yeah, I'm going to give you some stats because I'm
Mm.
a research girl and I feel as though statistics tell a story. And 95% of people do not have a schedule that allows them to get their work done. They don't have time for what's important. So we overschedule ourselves day in, day out. What if we just stopped doing that?
Mm.
What if we learned how to say no? What if we said, sorry, that doesn't make sense for me right now. Maybe we can revisit it in a month, and we just held our time precious and realized that we've got a limited amount of it. 80% of the population feels overwhelmed, stressed, and struggles with mental health. We don't take time to think. We don't take time to take care of ourselves. 85% of individuals feel like basic self-care, like eating a meal and getting a good night's sleep, is out of reach. Why is it out of reach? Those are the things that set us up for success. So, from my perspective, the habits we get into set us up to fail. We don't set ourselves up for success. And yet there are choices. And when you kind of have that mind shift change, I'm going to have a great day today and I'm going to focus on what's important and stress. I'm going to eat stress for breakfast and I'm not going to be overwhelmed. And today is going to be a productive day. When you get that mindset and just focus on a couple of things that will be micro steps to you getting there, that's when it all starts to come together.
I mean, I think at the start, and certainly in the book and in your TEDx talk, there were some serious health problems that you ended up encountering as a result of being overly busy and addicted to that busyness. I'm glad to see that you're healthy and well today. But these are real risks that these are some of the unseen things. No one really necessarily sees the stress or the damage that's being built up inside until it overflows.
Depression, anxiety, just being a good parent. One of my proudest moments was last year when I was up on the TEDx stage and my son, who had a single mother who spent most of her life stressed, overwhelmed, too busy for everything that was important. He got to see me up on that stage talking about how I conquered that and the framework that I came up with that. And to me, like those are the moments that we want in life, where we can really make a difference. And so it's a paradigm shift. It's how you measure success and learning how to measure success by what's important, not by what's trivial.
I think that mindset thing is so interesting and so important. Sometimes if I'm with clients or groups and we're talking about trying to be more effective or productive I use that concept of 1440, so 1440 minutes at your disposal every day. If you think of them as minutes, we don't put any worth or commodity alongside a minute. It's just a thing that kind of happens. But if we thought about having 1440 gold coins every day, we might be a little bit more thoughtful about how many we invest in things, how many we give away, how many are being stolen from us, how many we just forget about. And I love the fact that you talk about that mindset piece within this whole busyness trap, in that making that flip and thinking about things differently, reframing as to what really matters.
Yeah, it's about turning time poverty into time wealth and having enough time for what is important to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, now then, let's get into the process. Let's get into the busy busting process. It's made up of 3 beautiful headers that contain a whole bunch of stuff underneath. I don't want to be the one to talk about it. I want you to talk about it. Tell us about the process.
Yeah, I wanted to develop a process that was easy and as easy as counting one, two, three. And so that's why I labeled my process subtraction, mojo-making, and values vibing. And subtraction is just simply eliminating all these low value activities so you have time for what's important. And I developed a tool I call the Busy Busting Barometer. I work with industrial psychologists to understand there are actually 21 things that we do that keep us from what's important. And we don't even know we're doing it. So for me, that subtraction is really about the metrics, finding out what your low value activities are, and just fixing one. One. Fixing one habit will give you hours back in your work week to do something that's more meaningful. Step 2, I'm really passionate about, and it's my favorite step in the process, and it's mojo-making, because we tend to think that happiness it's a destination. It's a thing. I'm going to be happy when I get married, when I get the job done, when I'm on vacation. But happiness is really about these micro moments that we create for ourselves. And I think you and I chuckled. I told you that I eat dark chocolate every day,
Yeah.
3 pieces of dark chocolate. And it just, I don't know if it's the cacao. I don't know if it's because I close my eyes and I let myself just really lean into how good it tastes. And we talked about, gee, is it appropriate to say on air? One time before a big interview when I was out in LA, I just last minute got really nervous. So I went to a coffee shop and I put my headphones on and I started looking at my talking points and I had my 3 pieces of chocolate and I just ate them and closed my eyes and it was only 3 minutes. And when I opened my eyes, I noticed everybody in the coffee house was staring at me. And I'm like, why? What am I doing? Why are they staring at me? And then one kind soul came over to me and said, you were moaning so loud with delight. It was almost a Harry Met Sally moment, and it was only 3 moments, but it woke up my endorphins. It woke up my energy. It put a smile on my face. And then I was able to go into that interview that I was nervous about and ace it. So that's step number 2, mojo-making. And then the third and final step is values vibing. People tell you that they want to align their decisions with their values, but they don't have a process to do it. And few people really understand what values equate to quality of life. I mean, you can be trustworthy, and that's a great value, but is being trustworthy going to give you quality of life? Probably not. So I got really curious. What are the values that equate to quality of life? And what I learned is that there are four, some variation. We personalize them, but they're connection, energy management, growth, and authenticity. And when you have those four values in your life and you make sure they happen day in and day out, you get to the end of your day saying, I had a great day. And so, what I do, because we're human, we're natural. And for me, the one that goes all the time is human connection. I love my work, so I can walk into my office and just do and do and do and not connect with the people I love or just not get out of my own head. And so at the end of the day, I just take those four values and I rate myself. And I take the one that I didn't rock and I say, you're going to rock it tomorrow. What are you going to do tomorrow differently? And it's usually connection. Once in a while, it's about energy management. It's very rarely I'm a positive person, but sometimes it's about taking care of myself or getting, 8 hours of sleep. But it's really about understanding what was void and adding it back in and knowing I'm perfectly imperfect. And the next day, I'm probably going to have something else that I was ignoring or not maximizing. But I go through the process of figuring out what it is and making a change the next day.
I just love the framework. I think it's great. And in the book, there's loads of examples and loads of practical ways to kind of work it through. I'm curious about some bits in there that I wouldn't mind just sort of digging a little bit in with you. So when we think about subtraction, you make it sound so simple, right? Letting go of the low value activities. I would imagine in the work that you've done, there's a certain amount of subjectivity and objectivity in people really being able to identify those low value activities and actually then physically letting go of them. How do you help them move from that subjective place of, oh, really, I can't really let go of that, to getting on with it and really starting to make progress in that area? Are there any kind of secrets or tips or Peggyisms that really help people get on the way?
There is. For me, it's like whenever I speak, whenever I consult, I send people to my website to do what I call the busy barometer. It's a 3 to 4 minute survey. And if you spend more than 3 or 4 minutes on it, you're overthinking it. But it asks you a bunch of questions that seem very casual, and it will help you figure out what are your low value activities and kind of where they fall. Are you not doing well with meeting management and communicating? Are you not doing well, with your calendar and scheduling? Are you not doing well on self-care? They'll manage all these things up and they'll say, hey, here's one micro step in one area that you should, work on. And once you ace that one, do it again. And then figure out the next one in line. So it becomes very easy to figure out, how to put gum in that hole in the bucket because it's just there in writing. And I guess that's why I'm such a data-driven person, because your low-value activities may be different than mine. So it's important that you're able to identify yours, not so much. I mean, there are ones that everybody in the world, right now, meetings is the biggest whole and always on communication and feeling like we always need to respond. Those are two really, really big ones, universal. But when you know your individual ones and just fix it, one little micro step at a time, it really helps. And so I recommend, taking the busy barometer. It's free. I never wanted to really charge for this. It's on my website. PeggySullivanSpeaker.com. Go take it and see what your low value activities are and work on that one thing.
I love that. We're going to put the links to all that sort of stuff in the show notes for sure, so people can get easy access to it. I think that it's an iterative process, right? I'm a big believer in that, winning needs witnesses. So you need little things to kind of work for you to kind of take the next step. So I think that is brilliant. When it comes to Mojo-Making, I might need some direction. I might need some help on this, because in my head, listening to what you said and researching, there's almost two sides to the Mojo-Making. Because in my head, there's a bit of the vibe that we give off, of others by our own activities that has a positive impact on them. But there's also the pieces of understanding what makes us tick and take energy and have fortitude and all those things. I know you're a massive fan of neuroscience and and what have you. Are there any particular pieces that you really like to share with the audience today that sort of like help us understand what on earth is going on with our brains with this mojo stuff?
Yeah, I mean, think of it like you're looking at a Christmas tree and you're trying to decide, which one. And one is lit up and it's beautiful and it's got expending so much energy, and the other one isn't. And that's what happens. Your brain lights up like a Christmas tree, when you're happy. It happens biologically. We don't have to do anything. And the thing of it is it happens by smelling a cinnamon candle. It happens by taking 2 minutes and petting your cat. And so I tell people to stop thinking about happiness as about this big destination, this thing. I'm going to be happy when, and enjoy these tiny little micro moments, whether it's just petting your fur baby, whether it's, deciding in the middle of a day, which I never do, I'm going to call my son up and say, hey, I love you, thinking of you. You don't need to take time out of your day. Bye. Just the little things that take no resources. We need to get more focused on those. It's not about how much money we spend. It's not about, marriage or just all these destinations, the promotion. It's the tiny little things because we control them. Everything else in many ways is out of our control. Take on the things that you can control and get that neuroscience, get your brain igniting those endorphins. It's a mood changer.
Absolutely. And I think there's a key piece in there about tuning into your mood, how you're feeling, what your physical state is, what's going on with the body when you're feeling these moments, because spotting and understanding those triggers can really, really help you kind of like make the connections, right? Make the connection. We know connection is important with each other, but also understanding what's going on with ourselves when we're doing this stuff. And then the final piece, the values vibing, it's so close to my heart because I'm a big fan of purpose and values and understanding the true meaning of those, not some thing that's a marketing tagline for an organization or, sounds good to somebody else. The things that really, really do matter to us. When it comes to your own experiences, are you really now very, very clear on those personal alignment bits? And have they stayed solid, Peggy, or do they change in different scenarios and different times? What's been your experience with that?
I love the four values that my research shows really equate to a meaningful life. The fact that you personalize them according to your life, and they may look differently. If you have a young family, connection may be about spending time with your family. If you're a woman who is an empty nester like me, connection may be girls' night out, and leaning into girls' night out, not saying no because you've got work on your desk. It's really about taking those things and understanding, what are the little micro things. I love learning. My dad always used to say to me, "What? A day without learning something new is a lost opportunity." So I love learning. I don't need to read a novel. I don't need to do something big. Sometimes I'll just Google, give me a new word today. Yesterday, I think it was pontificate. Talk endlessly about something. Just the small little things are so important. So I think that this values vibing is the connection, the energy management, authenticity. And authenticity, I want to spend a moment talking about that because we
Mm.
tend to think that authenticity is about being true to ourselves. But I tell people, turn it on your head and be understanding and empathetic with the world around you, because all of a sudden you'll realize there's so many different vantage points and so many different ways of doing things and ways of getting to the finish line. And when you're open-minded and when you're tolerant and not judgmental of others that are different from you, that's when you really get true success.
I totally believe that. I totally believe that. And I think everybody's life has to improve if we can find ways to make more time and actually put more importance on the things that really matter. I mean, and again, that sounds so simplistic, but in the hurly-burly world that we live in today, we almost put up with and make do with what time we have left to do things we like to do, rather than make sure we've got the right time to do the things that we really need to do. I love that. Peggy, this kind of time frame has like whizzed by. It doesn't feel busy. It feels purposeful, the conversation that we've had. And we've got to the bit in the show that I like to call sticky notes. So there is so much stuff in the book. I mean, we have unpacked a little bit of it today, but there's so many more things in there. If you were going to leave behind for the listeners 3 little sticky notes of wisdom on all this, avoiding the busyness trap and leaning into those sort of 3 wonderful kind of segments of your process, what would be on your sticky notes?
One of them is not really highlighted in the book, but it's a way I live my life, and that is give generously and always be nice. When my mom died, she led an ordinary life, but everybody that came to the funeral, the thing they said about her was, "Oh my God, your mom was so nice." And I thought, what a legacy. And it doesn't cost anything to be nice, to be kind, to give generously. So that's my favorite thing in the world to tell people. Just give generously, be a good person, be nice. I'm going to get back to what my dad talked about in growth, and a day without learning something new is a lost opportunity. And then I think the third thing is, it's these micro steps that equate to something big. It's taking those small little actions and reaping the benefit, so you have the power, the energy, the drive to keep them up. And so take that micro step. It's not the big things, it's the really small things that matter.
So true. And the point that you make about we don't control many things in our life, but these things are in our control. These are the things that we choose to lean into or not. I love those sticky notes. It's been fantastic. It's been wonderful meeting you, Peggy. I've thoroughly enjoyed a conversation. I'm enjoying the book, and we will put all the resources that you've left behind in the show notes. Before I let you go, just repeat the website address for everybody so they can go and find all this great stuff directly.
Yeah, it's Peggy, Peggy Sullivan, Sullivan, speaker.com. And you can reach out to me also on LinkedIn
Of
under
course.
Peggy Sullivan. I live in Palm Beach, and I love hearing from people. So please reach out. I love meeting new people. I love helping people. And for me, that's what it's all about, making a difference, making the world a better place, helping you find your personal power. And when you learn how to go from time poverty to time wealth, you have time for what's important. It's a gift. And it's not unattainable. It's not. It's something you can do every single day just by making intentional decisions.
I genuinely would say I am confident anybody that listens to you or reads the book will absolutely feel that these things are within their grasp and they have agency and control over some of these things, and their life will improve. Peggy, thanks so much for coming on. I can't tell you how grateful I am. It's been lovely to meet you. I wish you all the very best with the book.
Thank you. Thank you. It just launched. It's on Amazon.com. It's called Beyond Busyness. So feel free to grab a copy. Definitely, it's a laugh out loud book. It's a how-to book, but definitely people that have been reading it for the first time tell me they're laughing out loud, and I love that.
Well, we'll put links to the book and to the TEDx and everything in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming on, Peggy. You take care now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. That was Peggy Sullivan. And if you'd like to find out any more about Peggy or any of the things that we've talked about today, then please check out the show notes. So, that concludes today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, found it interesting, and heard something maybe that will help you become a stickier, more successful business from the inside going forwards. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps. I'm Andy Gorham, and you've been listening to the Sticky from the Inside podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening.